All right, guys, welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm one of the hosts, Ben Wooten, and
I'm Ashley.
yeah, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday night. All right,
Monday, not a Sunday. This is a first, Ben.
this is the first.
Who said
So
Monday's a bad thing?
yeah, I got a case of the Mondays, and it's a
Uh-oh.
good case, I guess. I don't know.
I did not have the Mondays today. I felt very energetic all day.
That's a good thing. That's a
I
blessing.
think it might be the cold air, like it just keeps you brisk,
Yep.
keeps you
Mm.
refreshed, rejuvenated. Like
It
I'm
shouldn't
outside
be.
right now. I'm a little chilly, but it's that comfortable, like, oh, I can feel
You
things are
feel alive.
changing. I feel alive.
He's alive.
Got my warm pajamas. I've got my tea. All the little things you can actually enjoy a hot cup of tea because it's not like 100 billion degrees outside.
I love now that we've made this a ritual over the past like 3 months. I've gotten the strong association between the podcast and a cup of tea. So I'm getting. It's a great. It's like because I don't drink coffee in the morning yet, and so I imagine this is what people feel in the morning, like, ooh, time for coffee.
That's exactly how I feel in the morning, like this little cup of happiness.
Yeah, and so maybe it's just a great ritual. It's such a good ritual. It's just so nice. I don't know.
I love just like those pairings, that you start getting those associations. And then especially when they're positive and not that the podcast is obviously a fun thing, but sometimes, maybe like if you're having like a hard time getting out of bed, you're like, "Oh, but I'll get that cup of coffee." Or whatever. And having things like that are positive associations and are reinforcing the behavior you want, i.e., getting out of bed and getting started with your day. Oh, that's something so big. Just establishing a morning routine. That's something I'm really in the process of right now. And what does a morning routine look like for me in terms of energizing and moving and getting situated and getting everything taken care of for the day? And
Okay, I need to show you a YouTube video. It's called The Hustle. My brother Jake sent it to me like a while back ago, and I asked him to send it to me today again. But it's it's basically it's very Tim Ferrissy, which means like
huh,
highly cerebral, over like just kind of like basically our default mode. And it like when you watch it, it's scary because he's got his whole day planned and like literally, and I've been thinking a lot about community and friendships and just like the value of that. And he did his whole day basically like staying on top of things, doing this, doing that, and he was just busying himself with these goals that he set for himself. And the whole day, it's like a satire. He um he didn't even talk to anybody. It was real, but it was so well done. It was hilarious, but it also was like, ooh, like for all the goal oriented people, it's like a call out to say like, hey, make sure that your goals are good and that they involve people. But it's a hilarious video.
oh,
I just,
balance, right?
I think you get a kick out of it.
All right, you got to send it to me.
His morning routines are really is pretty funny. So
I know. I know, and there are so many different things that you can do in the morning. Like I've played around with affirmations or journaling or making a gratitude list or doing yoga or going for a walk or whatever. I haven't really tried exercising, like hard exercising in the morning just because I don't know, when I wake up I kind of are you there? You're like mega frozen.
yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Am I moving?
Yeah, you're good now. You've just frozen in a kind of frame. But I haven't really played around with exercising in the morning just because for me it takes a little bit too much time unless I wanted to wake up even earlier than I already do. But it's something that I've considered. That was one of the things that I was just talking to you about off air of like I say I'm going to try this, but I don't. And I don't know, maybe it's also cuz in the mornings I'm awake and I'm alert, but I'm also just a little bit slower. Like I want things that are more meditative and that are more like grounding. I don't want to be up and at 'em doing push-ups and sit-ups and Pilates and all of that. Like that's more kind of how I let off steam at the end of the day after work, you know?
Yeah,
But I know a lot of people love working out in the morning and say that it's a great way to start the day.
I guess whatever works for you at the end of the day. Literally at
Whatever
the end of the
works
day
for
for you.
you.
It's clever, I guess.
What'd you say?
I'm not gonna repeat it because it's gonna sound silly.
Oh, I think I got it now.
Um, So me and Ashley were talking about motives for posting um, off air, and just posting to social media and the dynamic of social media, um, and how it's Halloween, everyone's posting their costumes and stuff. It kind of made me think about it.
Guilty.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like uh, so the struggle for me of posting is usually I tend to overthink, and I'll be like, do I really want to put this out? And or like, and then I just forget about it sometimes, and then it's like I want to make sure that me posting something is pure. So I'll like try to figure out what the best motives are for posting. And so I don't know about you, but the motives I've come up with that I want try to hit are I want to post something because I want to just document it. And so it's basically I'm just documenting it so my family and friends can check it out. And um I just try to avoid the validation trap, or like the cycle of just posting to get attention. But it's hard. I don't know. It's difficult.
So when you're talking about documenting, you're talking about kind of being removed emotionally, like kind of no ties. You're just like, here's a cool picture or a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I think maybe that's why. So maybe I use social media more as a documenting thing, and other people use it more as a like a connecting thing, like a community thing.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe that's why there's such a disconnect between like how some people, how I feel like I use it and other people use it. It's because I don't want to put myself at like out there and really communicate on social media. It's like I'm much more comfortable doing it in person as well because there's less room for maybe communication errors. Maybe that's
But then that's also interesting with how that plays into like if we're both two people that usually keep our cards pretty close to our chest and aren't necessarily overly willing to be vulnerable, is in person, that doesn't make it less vulnerable. And I don't
Ooh,
think online makes it less vulnerable. I think they're different. I think there are different types of vulnerability.
mhm.
Um, where you looked like you just got
I had a few ideas running through my head just then. Definitely.
because maybe online, like you can be vulnerable but from afar, and people can't touch you because maybe people don't know you, and there's that screen separating you. And in person, I don't know.
I think I know what it is actually. I
In
think I think for me, so whenever I'm by myself, I'm often a slightly I'm in a different zone. I'm in a different mode.
when you're totally by
When
yourself.
I'm by myself, like away from, I'm kind of in just in my head thinking about stuff, like, and whenever I'm posting, I'm still in that zone. Whenever I'm posting a Facebook thing or an Instagram thing. And so maybe that's why I feel like it's like I'm not even in like the social mode. I'm like kind of by myself, doing my own thing, being more introspective, and it feels weird to
But
like
people are removed.
yeah, I feel very removed. And one of the the dancers, the people I dance with, I realized, and this is just such an overthinking thing of me, but she just posted things immediately, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like you're still like in that frame of mind. You're posting it. It's an accurate representation of what was posted. Because yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I mean, I don't know, maybe people don't really have motives necessarily for posting. Maybe it's just this is what is kind of expected now. You have an Instagram, you post pictures on it, whereas I think for me, I try to be intentional with my posts, and I try not to really get into the Instagram like just stuff where you just scrolling for 10 minutes and you really don't get anything out of it. It's like, okay, if I add up all those times and I look at it, did I really do anything meaningful? No. And then I just feel like I wasted my time. And then that makes me feel uncomfortable. So I don't like that. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to post, or I try to post snippets of me that are representative of my life and of my genuine self. Um, which is not to say that people aren't posting things of their genuine selves, because I don't want to slight anyone in what they're posting. I think it just comes down to, are you being you, or are you being what the world wants you to be and putting that out into the world? And
Yeah.
like for me, I don't know, like I posted my Belle costume in my provincial town Belle costume because I was like, this is awesome. And I was Belle for Halloween. And I think that's really cool. And um like,
It is.
and
It
this is,
is.
oh shucks. Well, thanks. And like this is who I am. And I think that that's something with social media that I've tried to always keep myself accountable to, is like I'm not going to be a different person on social media than I am in real life. And kind of, I think if you scroll through my page on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you would be like, yeah, Ashley, 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 Ashley. Like there wouldn't be a lot of disconnect.
But okay, but what happens whenever you post things over time? Then it's a different person because you're constantly changing. That's kind of. But to go back to like trying to put an put an accurate representation out there, I do think it's really fun to have a place of your highlight reel. So it's like this is the highlights of my life, and it's fun to look back and like boom, oh that was great, oh that was so good. Like I was scrolling through my own and like look just reminiscing, and it was a blast, like just reminiscing over, like you basically have this treasure trove of memories in your home page or whatever, your profile or something, and that's really fun. So that's why I do like the documentation method.
Well, then I
um,
guess, is it worth documenting for the whole, not the whole world, but for all of the viewers to see, or like
Likes on them.
I think that's the thing too. Like so much of our posts, like the value of the post is tagged to the likes or the comments or whatever, as opposed to just being like, I think my Belle costume is really cute and I don't really care what other people think, which is my general approach. But as opposed to like you have your photos, right? Your photos on your phone. Is that not the same thing? It's just less public and you could still scroll through that. But there's generally a lot of photos on the phone and then all those photos get lost. This is something I've actually been dealing with lately, is I have like 9,000 pictures on my phone, and like how did I get here? And now I can't even find this picture that I'm looking for. So Instagram or Facebook or whatever does have that because it's more of snippets. And but then how is that different from another form of documentation, and could you do it elsewhere without it being tied to likes, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just was writing down some stuff that made me think about, but definitely I think certain things get rewarded, certain things don't get rewarded. Uh,
Totally fair.
and it's just inevitable using these platforms, and there's all of their pros and their cons as well. One thing that one of the things that I try to remember or keep in the back of my head is I don't want to post things where, and this could just be me thinking too much, but post things where it's like, um, is it look at me, or is it look at this and you can do this as well? So the idea of posting things that where everyone has access to, so like the idea of posting um, like beautiful shots of Nate, and you could even look at it like just art, like putting things that people can appreciate on there. um, I think those are all great things, but instead of it being like, um, maybe look how unique, or I like the idea of posting things that are good, that I find good and that actually I really enjoy and that are accessible to everybody. Um, like it doesn't have to be a big fancy trip. It doesn't have to be something crazy, but just you're basically saying, "This is cool. I really appreciate this," and you can easily, like, it's easily attainable. You don't have to have like a certain amount. You don't have to have money. You don't have to have tons of time. You don't have to have. It's just that you can just enjoy it. I don't know.
I really appreciate that because I have one friend who will just post cool things from hikes, like, look at this cool tree I saw today. And I really appreciate those posts because, like you said, it doesn't require a lot. It just requires slowing down. And sometimes I think too, those posts can also remind me, like, oh, have I really looked around at the world that's around me today? Like, have I really been intentional and present? But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. And I don't know how many posts actually get a lot of brain power to them, or if it's just kind of a rote, this is what we're doing now. We're posting our lives, we're documenting everything. And then, kind of like you said, what's worth documenting versus what's not. And are you posting several things a week? Are you posting once every couple months? Are you not posting at all? Um, but yeah, I think posts have a lot of like externally placed value on them that isn't really representative of the intrinsic value of the post.
It makes me think, as it should, maybe that's what it's, social media. It should, I think maybe the post should be, which I think that's why I like the Facebook community groups, or at least some of the ones I'm in
Oh
now,
yeah.
particularly the dance groups, is because it's actually social. Like it's genuinely social. So people post there and it's not like, hey, look at me. It's like, let's go do this thing together. Let's go check out this progress post of, can you critique anything? Or it's just it's not about, I don't know, the big things. I just like the I like the the information that I consume to help me remind me about things that are have always been there, that can be easily enjoyed, that doesn't require a whole lot. It just requires a slight change of focus or a slight change of perspective. And
Mm.
I think social media, or at least people I follow, it's just, and everyone does this. I do it, but it's kind of like, everything. It's a false narrative of story of saying like everything's amazing. It's so great, and in reality, people are just going through it. Um,
But then if you open up and you let people in, then that's a whole other side of being vulnerable and posting that online. So kind of you're stuck between this like, do you put on the facade or do you open up?
and also, no one wants somebody that's always like, sharing their sad stuff. And that's why I think social media is a weird thing, is because when you're sharing, sometimes you're alone, and so like at least for me, it'll just come back. If I'm gonna post something, it'll just be like in my room or something. I'm like, okay, send. Um, yeah, it's like it's interesting. I don't know. I was gonna go somewhere with that.
No, I really liked what you said though about when you're posting, you're alone usually, and that makes it more disconnected or more like documentation as opposed to, oh, here was this social thing I did. Yeah. I don't know. I think that for social media, I think about it, but I don't really think about it. Like sometimes I want to kind of go down these rabbit holes of um thinking about what is the post and what does it mean and what's the um purpose and what's my motive and what is this person's motive and blah blah blah. That's a lot of like projecting, trying to know that I know what they're doing,
I do that. I think I do that a lot.
which is a slippery slope because you don't know. You only know what you're in.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
You
like
know
I
what.
need to let go. I need to let go and try to stop acting like I have the answers or
You
know.
don't have all the answers, and at some point you just have to be like, I don't know, is this really worth the thought process and time? No. Like I could be reading a book, or I could be doing yoga, or I could be walking serious, or I could be doing something more productive with my time than sitting here scrolling through Instagram and being like, what was this person thinking when they now don't get me wrong, it's fun. Like sometimes just that little psychology experiment with you do with yourself, which isn't really an experiment at all because you don't really get any answers besides the answers you come up with, which are all self-imposed and are probably honestly more of a reflection of you than that person.
I think the like the illusion of getting fame is potentially, I think that's what social media people do, is they try to like, that's what keeps you on, is the
All the
temptation
followers, yeah.
to fame. And a lot of times I have to remind myself, you know what, like, do you care about people's posts? Like I'm asking myself and I say, not really. And they say, oh, well, they probably don't care about your post either. So just go ahead and post it. No one cares. Like, well, not no one cares, but the people that care are your friends and family, like the ones that actually know you. And you don't need
Yeah.
to fake it around them. So, you
No.
know, and so it makes me think, well, why don't I just put it in my family group chat, And so that's what I usually do. Uh,
And well, it's like you're probably gonna forget in 30 seconds anyway. You know? Oh, that's another thing that we talked on a little bit last week of like just how much information we're bombarded with throughout the course of a day in terms of advertising and marketing and sales and just seeing things. And I've actually been trying to pay attention to it this week. And a big thing that I actually noticed is I played around. This was just like a very short, right? Because my drive to work is like 10 minutes, a very short experiment. But I played around with like, what if I listened to the radio versus my own music on the way to work, right? Which sounds kind of silly now that I'm saying it out loud. But this was my experiment for the week that I did with myself. And honestly, listening to the radio stressed me out more because you never know when it's going to be a commercial. And then I would make myself sit there and listen through all of the commercials from the radio.
What an experiment.
And be like, oh, this is so much information. Like I'm listening to so many different deals and offers and different voices and different products, and I don't even know what this is. And then just think if you're mindlessly changing through the radio stations, how much of that you're getting. So then that was the next day. I was like, I'm just gonna keep my thing on a continuous loop. I'm just gonna flip through every single radio station. And like I didn't count, obviously, because I was also driving, so I was using that part of my brain. But like so many of them were talking, they weren't even playing music. And then I would compare what if I listen to my Spotify where I know my songs, or if I listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something where there isn't as much of that information, or maybe like in a podcast or a book, or obviously still music too, information is getting delivered, but it's less in a coercive type way. And I definitely felt different pulling into work compared to the days I listened to the radio
Mm,
and
interesting.
like either my music or I'm a big fan of listening to instrumental music on the way into work in the mornings. I don't know, for me, it totally sets
Uh,
the tone of the day.
I'm imagining you listening to 300 Violins Orchestra. Do you know that one? Dun, 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 like it's like the hype music. You're like,
I feel very seen, right?
is that? Do you know that song that I'm talking about?
To be perfectly honest, it's usually like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or Outlander music that I'm listening to. I mean, that Harry Potter music, it's just classic. You listening to it, you're instantly like, I feel like I'm at Hogwarts and there's magic, and that's great. Um, but I'm a big fan of instrumental music in the morning, and maybe my experiment is a little flawed because I'm conditioned to listening to or to instrumental music in the mornings. So that felt like, oh, this is a no, and I know that this music is relaxing, and I know that I'm going to enjoy this. But still, I think there was something to be said for listening to all the advertisements, and then just thinking about like walking through a store. This week, I tried to think about as I walked through a store like, oh my gosh, all of this information that is coming at me and that my brain is having to parse through and see important, not important, important, not important, 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 don't worry about this, like, and just your brain is having to make so many split second decisions, and we're giving the brain so much to do. So then I was kind of wondering how much does that play into fatigue in terms of like your brain actually being on overdrive because we're presenting the brain with so much information and so many stimuli, and the brain is just like, I can't process all of this. And then how much then does that contribute to our executive functioning skills? And that's kind of everything I was thinking about this week.
Woo!
Comments. Take it away.
Yes, I concur. And the stuff I remember. Yeah, I remember walking into the. This was in college, and I was trying to, first time really on my own. And I remember going to the grocery store, and it's weird. They say like being in the present moment is like a good thing, but sometimes there's just so much stimuli that you can't be in the present. Like imagine people. I've heard somebody say like he used to live in New York City, then he moved out to an island or something, and then came back and he was aware. So he was actually in the present moment. Is just way too much. And so when you're in a place you're overstimulated, being in the present moment is not really a good thing. You have to shut things down. You have to, you know, block things out. But I remember walking through the grocery store and like trying to make it an enjoyable experience and like just trying to take it all in. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that I didn't even realize is here. Because usually when you walk in, you already. It's also a great like just realization of you only notice like what do you see. Everyone sees things differently, and going to a grocery store is very interesting because there's so many options. But after you've developed your habits, your routines, your patterns, your rituals in the grocery store, you don't see anything else. And so everything becomes invisible, and you're just like, yep, frozen pizza and bananas and get an avocado. Like you just like you don't even see like the rutabagas and the radishes and the
Jackfruit, yeah.
yeah, it's like the yeah. There's so many things that I just don't see, and then somebody from a different culture that has a different food background is like, oh yeah, this, and it's like we went to the same grocery store, and it's like, what do you see? And you have to shut things out. It's kind of a cool thing on like overstimulation or so many options.
I think that that's part of it. Like maybe that's why there is the kind of level of dissociation or just like removing yourself a little bit, or why you go into a grocery store on autopilot because like you have your list or you know what you need to get, and that's why you go in targeted, like you're on a mission. And I definitely kind of go, I flip flop between the two, like, oh wow, this is such an experience and look at how much stuff is here. But I think I have to have a certain amount of bandwidth to be in that brain space.
You do, you do.
Yeah, because if I'm like my brain can't hold anything else. I'm just coming in and doing these missions to get my black beans and my peppers and my onion and garlic and some tomato sauce, and then I'm going to the self checkout because I don't want to stand in line and I want to scan my items. But then some days I'm like, I don't want to deal with the machine not working, so I'm gonna go through. And even, but like, think of how many decisions are involved at a grocery store. Like, do you get a basket? Do you get a cart? Do you get the little cart? And then like, which brand do you choose? And then do you go to this lane or that lane? Like, I've also been, I mean, I haven't had that much bandwidth this week, but just thinking about how many decisions we have to make on a daily basis. And I think that that's something that I've been introduced to with teaching this week that I've noticed so much is I'm constantly on from the hours of 7:15 to like 4:15 p.m. I am on. I am like, can I go to the bathroom? Yes. Can I go and get my water bottle? Yes. Can I go get my binder out of my locker? Sure. Like just these itty bitty decisions that it sounds like, okay, yeah, sure, the kid needs to go to the bathroom, let him go to the bathroom. But it's still this decision. And then your brain has to keep track of that. Oh, she's in the bathroom. If she's not back, I need to go check on her, like, and then there's just so much that your brain is storing and trying to work through. And then, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely something to be said about like, you have to have a certain amount of brain capacity to be present and to experience all of that. And then kind of your reset and your refresh is internal, and that has to come from you also. But
Yeah.
then if you're like, I don't have the brain space to even think about it, then it doesn't happen.
That's why being exhausted. This is just what I've observed, and maybe I'm wrong, but you can get stuck in cycles for years if you're exhausted because you have no you're exhausted, you are tired, and when you're tired you can't make decisions, and so other people make the decisions for you a lot of times. um so
Or you just, even if you
sales.
think about changing, you don't have the brain capacity to actually enact that change or to create a plan. And so like I don't really know how you rectify that. Um but I think I'm happy at least that I'm aware of it, because I hope that that means I'll be more proactive
Yeah.
and not necessarily getting into those habits and just those feedback loops where I'm just kind of on autopilot. But autopilot is a good mode to be in sometimes when you've got a lot going on. And thank goodness our brains do have that capacity to say, all right, we can tone all this white noise out. Here's what we're doing. Blinders are on. And that's also a really cool function of the brain. So I don't know. There's just so many different things the brain can do. And I'm always like amazed.
Yes, I think the dissociation thing is pretty interesting because it's viewed negatively, at least how I view it. um, but that has some utility of focus. I guess you could just rephrase it as you're like focusing on certain things. But yeah, well, I think that was pretty good. We talked about a lot.
A good targeted. Should we just round it out with a quick question? Favorite songs or most
Yeah.
impactful?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go and give. I already have a song. I've been singing
Don't steal mine.
the Harry Potter themes. So I've been country dancing, doing my thing, and some of the songs there have been there's I haven't heard him as much before for whatever reason. But I really like recently Alan Jackson. I don't know how I missed him for that long of a time, but he's really good. And some of the songs are just one of them, Small Town Southern Man, it's a classic. And I really liked Little Bitty, I think. Yeah, that one's really good. So those are my favorite songs at the moment. Is and George Strait also I'm starting to get like him a lot too. So
So
what about
sweet.
you?
What about, do you have like a general kind of bird's eye view song that just has stuck with you for a long time?
It's a Leonard. No.
Don't steal mine.
Okay, I won't steal it.
No, you can. It's okay if it's
No,
the
I
same
won't. I
song.
won't.
I
I'm
wouldn't be that
oh,
surprised.
there's one song that mm, it's too personal. I can't share.
Oh, rats.
Um,
No, that's okay. Don't share.
um, oof, I don't know. One song that stuck with me. I'd have to go back and look. So in the meantime, what is one song for you that is stuck and that you really love?
Well, for me,
I know what it is.
like it's this big reveal. I guess to the world it is, except not really, because most people who know me know this. Hallelujah is my song. That song means everything to me, and
By Jeff Buckley, right?
I love the Jeff Buckley version. I love that sigh at the beginning. Just so good. It's like just so summarizes the song of like there's so much defeat and loss and just like destruction, but then at the end it's just this triumphant, victorious, and like I don't know, his breath just captures all of that and it's really amazing. Leonard Cohen is a genius, was a genius. Um, but that's totally my song and it has been. I think I told you that 3 years ago. Good thing is some things never change, but that's definitely a big one for me. And just also I love the music theory of the song. I love
The lyrics at the beginning, a minor fall, major lift. You know,
um so yeah, that's, I love that one. And man, there are so many others because music is just transcendent and it's so important. Yeah.
I liked his lyrics too. The ones that Jeff doesn't sing, the two verses that Leonard sings. Um, I don't remember what they are, but I just remember like, oh dang, those are really good too.
Some of the verses are just amazing. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord a song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. Like you get the goosies, you know?
Yeah.
But Leonard Cohen just really had a way with music and with words. And I think my one of my it, oh, is it gonna get the grand title of favorite? I think it might, Ben. I think it might.
It's such a good song.
Oh no, that definitely gets the title of favorite. I was talking for favorite quote. I think it might be Leonard Cohen's quote, "There's a crack in everything. That's how light gets in."
Mm.
And what more do you need to say, really? That just summarizes everything.
It's I think that's one thing that's amazing about which I need to you know, we all say this, but we need to read more because there's so much great literature that is much more all encompassing of real or like our human experience. And so like we said with social media and stuff like that, it generally displays a very small part of what it means to be human, and it's entertainment, but really good entertainment helps us reveal what it is to be human. It helps us live our lives in a way that motivates us and inspires us. And I think that's one of the downfalls of the general, you know, social media usage, but it's just so addictive. But yeah, it's like that stuff is just so good, and it seems so it's much more real and you can feel it a lot more. It evokes feelings and emotions that you can't get um as often scrolling through things, you know.
Not to mention, just like I feel better when I read a book, like a book in my hand versus scrolling through a screen. It just feels better to your brain. I don't know how to explain it, but my eyes don't get kind of
Well,
like that.
I think I don't know where this is, and you know, maybe I'm spreading a myth, but I heard that reading, just the process of moving your eyes like from left to right, or just reading in general, is somehow good, like somehow calms the mind or something like that. I don't know what the neuroscientists say, but I'm sure this.
It worked for me.
Yeah, works for me.
It
And
worked.
it's also like you're sitting there with one person, sharing his ideas or her ideas or story, and it's your, like we said earlier, you're locked in a little bit longer, so it's not as like, ooh.
It's not as flitty. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about, back to the thing. I don't know if I have a favorite song. I guess I'm scrolling through my some songs I play on guitar. Probably
Or just it doesn't have to be a favorite. You don't have to give it that all encompassing title.
Fernando.
Oh my gosh, Hey Jude. Of course. How could I forget that one? Classic.
I love my favorite. I already said my favorite line in a music thing, but is the Zach Brown Band song. I just love it. This mine on a permanent vacation. The ocean is my only medication. Wishing my condition ain't ever gonna go away. Champagne shores washing over me. It's a sweet, sweet life in the salty sea. One day you could be as lost as me. Change your geography, and maybe you might be. It's that imagery just kind of makes me think about the beach, and then how words and verbs can just put you in the mind state. And I think that one is just so nice because it sounds so good, and it's also just like the beach is such a powerful, it's so powerful being by the beach. I just love that. Sounds great.
Yeah, when the song has that imagery, and then also when the feel of the song like totally
Perfect.
embodies what it's saying, I love like if a song is kind of about change or turmoil and then they get the music and those crashing kind of clashing sounds and you're like, "Ah, yes. This feels like musically, like it musically expressed turmoil or inner, battles and confusion." And that's such the song that comes to mind for me with that is February Song by Josh Groban. And there's this one, like after the bridge, there's just this whole kind of like musical interlude. And man, I don't know, I was listening to it on the way in this morning and like you just feel it. You're like, yes, I feel this confusion. This is like a way for me to understand my confusion outside of me without words, just with music. And I get it and I feel it and it makes me feel less alone. And that's really empowering.
I love it. We could do a little like thing later on where we talk about like, we a little bit more structured of like just different songs and stuff. But
Heck yeah. Let's
um
do that.
that's- yeah.
I think we got some good episodes coming up for November with the ones we talked about. And
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, even though that sounds like it's so much more planned out than it is, but just kind of brainstorm, hey, let's hit on this. But
Yeah.
since last week was a little longer, should we go ahead and wrap this one
Go
up?
ahead and wrap it up. This is the end of the episode.
Do you have
Thanks
any
for
parting words, a quote you'd like to share?
Um, stay blessed, stay spooky. Halloween. I don't know. No is the answer.
Happy
All right.
World Vegan Day.
It's National Vegan Day.
Yeah, it's World Vegan.
All right. Would you like to send us out then with a word of, with just a good word?
Ahimsa, compassion, nonviolence. Be a good human.
You heard it all here first or second. All right. See you.
Bye, guys.